Ibrahim Traoré was just an ordinary man, until the world made him something else. One evening, as he walked down a quiet street, an encounter would change everything. He was disrespected, humiliated in public, without anyone knowing who he truly was. They saw him as nothing more than just another black man, unaware that they had crossed paths with someone who would soon change the fate of an entire nation. This wasn't just a mistake, it was a reminder of the deep-seated racism that still lingers in our world. So what happens when the world underestimates you? What happens when they don't know who you really are? Stick around, because Ibrahim's story is one you won't forget. It was a regular evening in the city, a city that Ibrahim had lived in for years. His routine was simple: work, a quick stop at the corner store for groceries, and then home. His steps were steady as he walked along the sidewalk, passing through the neighborhood he had come to love over the years. The soft glow of streetlights illuminated his path. The chill of the evening air mixed with the faint smell of distant food vendors preparing their meals for the night crowd. Ibrahim adjusted his backpack, fingers wrapped tightly around the straps as his mind wandered. He wasn't thinking about much. His day had been ordinary. A few meetings at the office, a couple of phone calls with friends, nothing out of the ordinary. In many ways, his life had settled into a calm, predictable rhythm. He liked it that way. There was comfort in simplicity. He had no ambition to stand out or rise above. His dream was a quiet life, one where his family was safe and his evenings were peaceful. But tonight was different. As he crossed the intersection by his apartment complex, a car slowed down beside him. He didn't think much of it at first. Cars passed by here all the time, especially during rush hour. Yet there was something in the way this particular vehicle slowed to a crawl. The person behind the wheel wasn't just passing by, they were watching. Ibrahim continued walking, a little faster now, but before he could get too far, the car stopped completely. He heard the sound of the engine idling and the low hum of the air conditioning as the driver's window slid down. Ibrahim glanced over his shoulder, expecting to see a neighbor or perhaps someone lost needing directions. But no, instead, a man leaned out of the window, his eyes narrowing at Ibrahim with an unmistakable look, one that radiated disdain and judgment. Ibrahim's stomach turned, but he kept walking, trying to push the feeling down. No reason to pay attention. This was a city. People were busy, but the man wasn't just looking at him, he was sizing him up. Ibrahim quickened his pace, thinking that would be the end of it. He had learned long ago to ignore the looks, the whispers, the assumptions. But tonight, he had no idea what was coming. As he reached the next corner, the sound of footsteps echoed behind him, deliberate and measured. Ibrahim's instincts kicked in, a tight knot forming in his chest. He didn't dare look back. It was a feeling he knew too well, the kind of pressure that comes from being watched, hunted even in your own neighborhood. He tried to tell himself he was overreacting, that this wasn't anything unusual. But the steps grew louder. Whoever it was wasn't trying to be quiet anymore. The footsteps stopped, then came the voice. "Hey, you, stop right there." Ibrahim froze, the words like ice through his veins. His heart pounded as he turned to face the man, a tall figure in a dark jacket. His face was a mask of judgment. Ibrahim's mind raced. What had he done wrong? The man's voice grew sharper, his tone condescending. "What are you doing here? You think you can just walk around like you own the place?" Ibrahim's eyes widened. He didn't know how to respond. He was just a man walking home from work, no different from anyone else. Yet, here he was being stopped, accused without reason. The weight of the situation began to sink in. "I'm just walking home," Ibrahim said, trying to keep his voice steady. "Home? In this neighborhood? Don't lie to me. You don't belong here." The words hit Ibrahim like a slap. He could feel the anger boiling inside, but it was a kind of anger he'd had to learn to suppress over the years. Anger that could escalate. Anger that could turn him into another statistic. Ibrahim took a slow breath. "I live here. I'm just heading home." The man stepped closer now, his eyes narrowing. "Don't talk back to me. You think just because you're in a suit and tie you can act like you're one of us? You're nothing but a criminal, a thug." Ibrahim could feel his hands tighten into fists, but he didn't move. He knew the stakes. He could never let himself look like the aggressor. The man was looking for a reason to escalate this, and any move from Ibrahim could give him just that. Then the man raised his voice. "You don't belong here, boy. You should be careful where you walk. This is a place for people like me, not you." The slur stung. It wasn't the first time Ibrahim had been judged like this. It wasn't even the worst encounter. He had grown used to it, almost numb to the words that others flung at him. But tonight, the weight of those words hit him harder than ever. The man reached into his jacket, his eyes never leaving Ibrahim. For a split second, Ibrahim thought he was about to be arrested, accused of something he hadn't done. His mind raced with what to do next. Should he run? Should he speak up? But something held him in place. And that was when the situation took a turn. The man, realizing he had no real reason to detain Ibrahim, let out a scoffing laugh. "You think I care? I don't care who you are. You're just another black man in the wrong place. Now get lost." Ibrahim stood there, processing the injustice, the weight of it pressing down on him like a physical force. He had been nothing more than a man walking home. But to this man, he was something else. A threat, a criminal, undeserving of peace or respect. Ibrahim didn't want to make a scene. He didn't want to escalate the situation. But the words lingered, buzzing in his ears. He had felt it for years, the constant undercurrent of fear of being viewed as something less than human, simply because of the color of his skin. Tonight it had finally reached a boiling point. With the man still watching, Ibrahim took a step back. "I'm leaving," he said firmly, his voice low, but the man wasn't done. "Yeah, you better leave before I call the cops on you," he sneered, his hand still in his jacket. The threat was clear. In this moment, Ibrahim realized the dangerous truth. Even in his own neighborhood, even in his own country, he wasn't free. Not really. The fear that had crept into his chest before was now a cold, suffocating weight. His hands felt clammy, his breath shallow. He had been in dangerous situations before, but this one felt different. It wasn't just about him. It was about the millions of others who were treated the same, like criminals, like threats, like they didn't belong. Ibrahim tried to walk away again, but the man took a step forward, blocking his path. "You won't walk away from me. Not here." That was when Ibrahim heard it, the distant sound of sirens. The reality of the situation sank in. The man had called the police. He had just made a decision about Ibrahim's life based on nothing more than his appearance. And now the police were coming. The injustice of it hit him like a wave. He was about to be arrested for simply walking home. Not for anything he had done, but because of who he was. The sirens grew louder. Ibrahim's mind raced. Should he run? Should he stay? Would the police understand? Would they know the truth? Or would he be the one fighting for his life? Would they see him for who he was, a father, a worker, a man trying to live in peace? Or would he just be another black man caught in a system that didn't see him? The officer's voice rang out as he stepped out of the squad car, his hand resting on his holster. "Get your hands where I can see them," he shouted. Ibrahim's stomach dropped. The officer was shouting at him, pointing in his direction, but the officer didn't even know him, didn't know anything about him, his family, his struggles, or his fight. To the officer, Ibrahim was just another suspect, just another name on a list of potential threats. The moment was surreal. The officer's gaze was cold, calculating. Ibrahim could feel the weight of that look, the weight of judgment pressing down on him. He knew that in this moment, any misstep could cost him everything. Ibrahim stood perfectly still, his hands raised. His heart pounded in his chest. He was so aware of everything in that moment. The sound of the sirens, the rising tension in the air, the people gathering, recording everything on their phones. But no one knew what was really happening. Not the full story, not the context. "Don't make any sudden moves," the officer warned, his voice sharp. Ibrahim's mind raced. He wasn't guilty of anything. He hadn't done anything wrong. But right now, that didn't matter. All that mattered was the fear in the officer's eyes, the fear in the crowd's eyes, the fear that had been drilled into the world's collective consciousness. Would this moment be the end? Would he be another name in the growing list of black lives lost to this cycle of misunderstanding, fear, and prejudice? The world seemed to pause. Everything was suspended in the air, the breath held, the tension palpable. Ibrahim thought about his family, his children, his life. He thought about what this moment could mean if it went wrong, if he made one wrong move, if someone misinterpreted his actions. Then finally, after what felt like an eternity, the officer lowered his hand. The siren stopped. The tension in the air loosened, but it didn't vanish. The moment was over, but the fear stayed with Ibrahim. The humiliation stayed with him. Ibrahim made it home that night. He was alive. No shots fired, no headlines, no viral videos. But something had changed. Something deep within him had shifted. The streets were quiet as he entered his apartment. He could hear his children laughing in the other room, the sound of his wife humming as she cooked dinner. Everything seemed normal, yet Ibrahim couldn't shake the feeling that nothing was the same. That night, as he lay awake, his mind raced. He wasn't alone. There were millions of people just like him, facing the same unjust treatment, the same assumptions, the same fears. For some, the stories ended differently. For some, the sirens didn't stop. Ibrahim's encounter didn't change the world, but it did something important. It reminded him of the power of resilience. It reminded him of the fight that still needed to be fought, and it reminded him of the importance of seeing people for who they are, not for the labels society places on them. So the question remains, how long will it take before we truly see each other? How many more lives will we lose before the world understands the cost of its indifference? Will we continue to ignore the truth, or will we stand together to change it? Ibrahim's story may not have made the news, but it echoes the experiences of countless others. And until the world changes, until the system listens, the fight for equality must continue. Ibrahim's story, though just one example, represents a much larger reality. It's a stark reminder of the battles fought daily by so many battles that often go unseen. While his experience didn't make headlines, it echoes in the lives of millions, reminding us all that the fight for equality is far from over. If this story moved you, if it made you think, then please take a moment to hit that subscribe button. We're on a journey to reach 1,000 subscribers, and we truly believe that with your support we can make it, but we can't do it without you. Your voice matters, so like, share, and most importantly, comment below. Share your thoughts or feelings, your reflections on Ibrahim's story. Let's keep the conversation going and inspire change together. Thank you for being a part of this community, and remember, change starts when we all stand together. Subscribe today and help us continue to tell stories that need to be heard.